The plurality of religious truths and the parable of the elephant. The philosophy of plurality of beliefs is the basis of all reasoning outlined by academies and transmitted by opinion makers in society. She is well portrayed in the parable of the 5 men groping an elephant. This parable is ancient and originates from India. In the story, 5 blind men are invited to touch an elephant. Each person touches a different part of the animal and, based on their limited experiences, forms a different idea of what an elephant is. A man touches the trunk and describes it as a snake. Another touches his leg and describes it as a tree. Another touches his ear and describes it as a fan. Another touches the body and describes it as a wall. Another touches the tail and describes it as a string. Neither man gets a complete view of the elephant because each is limited to his own perspective. The application of this parable is that each religion offers a unique perspective on divine truth, but none of them possess the totality of truth. Just like the 5 blind men, each religion has access to a part of the truth, but not the whole elephant. All this reasoning seems quite persuasive, but when subjected to logic, it simply crumbles like a house in the sand in the rain. Let's see. Firstly, it is evident that the parable does not deny the existence of an absolute truth, but rather highlights the limitation of human understanding. Blind people have limited perceptions of the elephant. This does not imply that there is no objective truth about the animal. Another important point is the perspective of the person telling the parable. This person appears to have an objective perspective on the entire procedure because he can see that the blind men are wrong. The truth is that a person would not know that the blind men were wrong unless they had an objective perspective on what was right. So if the person telling the parable can have an objective perspective, why can't blind men have it? They might, if the blind could suddenly see. They would also realize that they were originally wrong. What stands before them is really an elephant, not a wall, a fan, or a rope. Humans can also see the truth in religion, not just in other areas of life such as finances, relationships, health, law, and others. The scriptures record an episode that shows exactly this: a man who lived in darkness until he found the true light and began to see the truth about reality and God. It is the episode of the man born blind healed by Jesus recorded in the Gospel of John chapter 9. At a certain point Jesus and his disciples pass by a man born blind and the disciples ask Jesus who sinned, the man or his parents, for him to be born blind. Jesus responds that it was neither he nor his parents who sinned, but that the situation was allowed so that the works of God could be manifested in him. Then, Jesus performs the cure, mixing saliva with earth, forming mud, which he applies to the blind man's eyes and asks him to go wash in the pool of Siloam. After obeying Jesus, the blind man returns seeing. The interesting thing is that his vision was so well restored that he began to see religious truths in a way that taught those who called themselves masters of religion and holders of all truth. The man answered them, "It is strange that you do not know where he is from, and yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not care for sinners, but, on the contrary, if anyone fears God and does his will, he will obey him." As long as the world has existed, it has never been heard that anyone has opened the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could have done nothing. But they replied, "You were born entirely in sin and you teach us?" And they kicked him out. John 9.
YouTube TV Jesus Christ. This and many more complete studies. Access, participate, and interact.